And Saturday went to the Ralph Northam inaugural ball at the Main Street Station in Richmond. Now, I got to tell you, my wife and I have had the distinct pleasure of being invited and attending several inaugural balls. George Bush won 2000, George Bush 2004, Trump 2017, McAuliffe 2013, I guess. And I could name some others, but those come to mind. The Ralph Northam inaugural ball on Saturday night after his inaugural address and becoming governor at the Main Street Station, unequivocally, without hesitation and a doubt, the best inaugural ball party ever in the history of all balls. And if he's going to govern the Commonwealth the way he put on the inaugural ball, like, it's going to be great. And forget his policies, all right? That was the best ever. We had such a good time, the Fräulein and I, going there. It was packed, but just the way it was laid out. First of all, the Main Street Station, we hadn't been there in a while. Just beautiful, done everything perfectly. The food, great. The drinks, great. The camaraderie, great. We were there about 3 hours, probably talked to 150 people. Never talked politics once. That's what's great about these things. You can go and, Democrats there, Republicans there, but I never talked politics one time, except one time I did talk politics. I have to take that back. My wife and I bumped into Senator Louise Lucas, and I promised her that I would back her 100% on the casino bill that she's trying to put together. Now that Bill Howell is gone, when I asked him about having a casino in Virginia, he said, "Not over my cold, dead body ever." Well, now that he's not there, well, maybe we'll have one. So other than that, no politics. What a great time we had, and I really enjoyed it, and wanted to thank the Ralph Northam Inaugural Committee for having us. And then, of course, I put a picture up on Facebook of my wife and I there, and she's as beautiful as ever because I'm very much in love with her after all these decades. So I always like putting a picture of her up because I think she's hot and all that good stuff. And so the hate, the Facebook hate, the hate book I got back was incredible. I mean, there's a picture at a party and like so many Republicans just hating on me, calling me all kinds of names. But that was on, I guess, Saturday. That was after 2 days of all the Democrats, anti-Trumpers, calling me every name in the book after going on CNN for 2 days. So there's just a lot of hate out there, both sides. It's like we can't just talk to anybody anymore, right? Everything is just hating on each other. And it's a toxic environment. It's just not healthy. Now, I don't really care what you say about me on social media. It just has no impact on me. I'm in the arena. I understand it. But it's a shame that our dialogue in this country has gotten to the point where there is just so much vitriol and nastiness going on. And I always get like, who could go on Facebook or Twitter and just tweet out or post just nasty, vile stuff on somebody? Like, what would the motivation for that be? Like, don't you have something better to do, like watch the football game or spend time with your family or read a book or take a walk or, I don't know, just something, helpful, like talk to your family or pick up the phone and talk to your cousin or something or your neighbor or, I don't know. You would think you had something better to do than post these hateful messages. But I guess not. I guess that's kind of the society we're in. As for me, I don't have time for that. I've got a family and I coach basketball and I got a million things going on that are fun. So I don't like getting involved in that. Joining us now, though, to try to straighten out this whole mess and tell us about what's going on in the General Assembly and what we can expect and Ralph Northam and the inauguration and everything else is noted political consultant, one of the best Democratic political consultants in the country, and very insightful and good friends. Love to have him on. You can follow him on @NotLarrySabato. Ben Tribbett. Ben, good to have you.
Good morning, John.
So what's with all the hate going on, man? Like, I go to this party and Republicans just hating on me. It's like I went to a party. Why can't we talk to each other on other sides of the aisle without being so nasty? What is going on here?
Well, I mean, you just had a Republican candidate for governor that spent millions of dollars telling your voters on the Republican side that Ralph Northam was really a secret supporter of MS-13, who wanted to have people come in and kill their families. I mean, this is the This is the result of that kind of politics and that kind of campaign. I was sort of flummoxed this weekend when Ed Gillespie put out a tweet, congratulating Ralph and on his, inauguration, and I said, I wish you could see a little bit more of that during the campaign. We have two honorable candidates who, have different ideas than the kind of campaign that Ed ran, and I don't think that, it's okay for him to just come back into being something else after that campaign he just ran. I mean, that's the reality of what just happened for the last year.
I mean, but you could also say the other side. I mean, Ralph Northam called the president a narcissistic maniac. Those of people like
that
me.
That was just a medical diagnosis.
Well, come on, that's a nasty thing to say. And you look at the other side and this whole thing on CNN that I went through and, getting cut off, because I have a different view. And then like somebody saying they were going to gut me like a fish. It's like I'm just trying to articulate an economic argument for what the president's trying to do. But I tell you what, Ben, when you have this level of hate, you can't talk to each other. And I just don't think that's a good thing. I mean, I talk to Democrats all the time that I don't agree with any of their policies, but they're my friends. I just don't see how that's evil. I really do. Like, they're my friends.
Well, people
Ben
get
Tribbett,
along well that are
you and I don't agree on anything.
Down together,
and you're my friend.
And do people do politics together? But it's again, when you get down into the base and what you're talking about when you talk about Facebook and as your grassroots supporters, they're going to follow the lead of what they've seen. They're going to follow the behaviors of what they've been seeing from the leaders, and to them, Ralph Northam is this terrible person. When in fact, Ralph Northam is, was a Republican who became a Democrat, who has led from basically the political center for his entire political career.
Right.
And if you look at him from any objective standpoint, putting aside the crap that we saw during this campaign, it probably would be the least objectionable Democrat that a Republican could have in the governor's office right now.
Right. I wouldn't dispute any of that, but it doesn't matter because, I mean, people are so polarized now that we're to the point where we can't even have a conversation. And I really think that's unhealthy because you have to be able to talk to people, both sides, and it's kind of sad. Okay, let's get to governing and the first week in the General Assembly. Now the Republicans, Kirk Cox is the speaker. There is some, not really power sharing, but some movement to acknowledge that the Democrats won a lot of seats on the Appropriations Committee, but not really anything beyond that. I did talk to Ken Plum on Saturday evening and asked him why he didn't run for minority leader, and he said he had no interest in it, so your reporting on that was accurate. So what happens now?
Well, I mean, I think there was an article this weekend about how the House Rules Committee, which is heavily stacked to the Republicans, is going to be taking up a lot more bills than it has in the past. So it looks like Speaker Cox is going to use that committee to send legislation to either kill or to hold for leverage versus something else that he may want. I assume from if he's holding for leverage, something he wants from the governor, because the Democrats don't really have a lot of leverage in the House. And we'll see how this goes. I think that, the freshman Democrats that are just down in Richmond, they're still learning their way. And what I saw last week, they're not all following the same strategy of what to do. You have some people that are wanting to be a lot more aggressive, some that are going to sit back more and watch. I want to bet with a friend, John, that I had bet the under on 5 days for Lee Carter to stand up and give his first impassioned speech on the floor, and I won that bet. He was up within 2. And generally speaking, the advice most people get is to freshmen, don't do that in the first few weeks. Don't polarize yourself with an impassioned speech that's not on a bill before you have a chance to really get to know the institution. So, the freshmen are not necessarily taking advice, and I think that they're going to be very difficult to hurt. They're not just one group.
So, the first week, how would you classify it, and what do you see as this incoming governor? What do you see as his top priorities? Ben Tribbett.
The first week, I think, is mostly for the General Assembly. The Senate obviously stayed exactly the same as it's been. The House, had a deal to, we won't call it a power sharing. It was a limited amount of additional power the Republicans were willing to give the Democrats. David Toscano really didn't make that deal when he had leverage a few weeks ago, and so what was left was basically what the Republicans were willing to give him for good PR. I think the Rules Committee has shown that the deal he made was not a great deal, definitely embarrassing him a little bit, further weakening him within his caucus. I think that what you're going to see coming up now is that Democrats are going to have to coalesce behind a strategy. I keep seeing this, we need to get, 2 votes on the floor for any bill, and that can pass a bill. And the reality is Democrats have to get 2 votes in a subcommittee. Most of the subcommittees are 4-2. So they're going to have broad bipartisan support of bills to be able to pass them into law. And I think that a lot of activists are going to be very disappointed with what they're able to even get out of the House of Delegates this year, even though it's 51-49.
What is your prediction on Medicaid expansion in 2018 of this General Assembly, Ben?
I think that there probably are the votes for Medicaid expansion, although there's different ways you could go about doing Medicaid expansion. And so, the question is can you get it to the floor to have those votes? And the short answer to that, John, is you certainly can with a budget amendment from the governor. I'm not sure that Medicaid expansion will pass with a normal bill because it has to go through committee. But I think it could pass with a budget amendment. That would be the path that Governor Northam has to take. It's still going to be a fight. This is not a done deal. Again, the Democrats did not they passed in the Senate. It has not passed in the House. I don't think the Democrats sort of missed their moment to make a deal in regards to that. And, there's a consequence to spending the last 2 months litigating and trying to sue your way into the majority versus sitting down and trying to negotiate what's going to happen for the next 2 years. And what Leader Toscano chose to do was the litigating side. And we talked about that, John, as it was going on, that these were long-shot lawsuits. They were not lawsuits that were going to succeed. And he chose to do that instead of negotiate, and now we are where we are.
Well, it seems like that was a tactical mistake, both a strategy and tactical mistake he made. So both didn't work out for him because you're right, had Toscano taken more of a conciliatory approach, he could have probably gained some power share. He chose not to do that, play hardball, long shot litigation bids came up empty, and now it is what it is. Okay, I talked to Larry Roberts Saturday night, and he told me that he wanted me to mention on the air, this is the chief of staff for Justin Fairfax, the new lieutenant governor. And Larry Roberts said that he is not going to work at his firm. He has resigned, and that what he said when he took officially over as chief of staff, which I guess would be today, that he would not be working for his law firm. And he said that would end the complaints of conflict of interest.
Well, it's so obviously big victory for everybody who was on social media demanding that he do so. I don't think this was ever a foregone conclusion. I think he actually planned otherwise, as indicated by the Washington Post story, where he wouldn't say what he was planning to do. I have also heard, though, that he's telling people that he is planning to be a full-time chief of staff during session.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure if that means that he's planning to come up here and practice law solo when he's not in session, or if he's planning to go to a different firm that does not have lobbying interest. What some legislators who are lawyers, and I put a chief of staff in the same category as the legislators who are lawyers, have done, like Rip Sullivan, is he left a law firm that lobbies the state to go to a law firm that does not lobby the state. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously chief of staff to lieutenant governor has always been a full-time position. There's still going to be some concerns here until we know where Larry is landing and what he's doing about a chief of staff that has another job that is leaving. I'm glad he's leaving Venable because there's a clear conflict of interest there with the lobbying they do of the state.
Right.
My guess is, John, that because it did not come out immediately. This probably was a mutual decision, if I had to guess. I'm guessing that probably the leadership at Venable probably wasn't thrilled either with the idea of this controversy and being dragged into it with all the state interests that they have. So, it remains to be seen. But this is definitely, in my opinion, it's not a part-time job. It's not paid as a part-time job. And I don't think you can accept a full-time salary for a part-time position. Now, maybe what Larry plans to do is only be there for the first session and then resign outright as chief of staff. But if he plans to go down to Richmond to be in the action during session as a full-time chief of staff and then accept that salary the rest of the year, I think we still have some problems. But I do think it's an improved situation than it was before.
It's certainly better than it was. We'll see what plays out. But I think you're right. You can't take the full-time salary and work part-time. He would have to give, whatever percentage of that money back. The whole thing just still sounds squirrely to me. I think you get a chief of staff like he's a chief of staff, and that's the end of it. And that's what their job is. Otherwise, don't take the job and continue to do whatever you're doing. Ben, let's get some predictions. Let's go to the Super Bowl. Divisional playoffs over. Now we get to the division championship games next week. Tell me the two teams that are going to be squaring off in the Super Bowl. Who wins?
This is very depressing. But I think that what we're looking at is a Eagles and Patriots Super Bowl. One of the worst NFL seasons of all time is going to end historically with one of the worst Super Bowls of all time.
So hear that, Mike. Ben Tribbett is with me. Eagles, New England in the Super Bowl. And we're going to reserve judgment on that till we see the other games. But we're in agreement on that. Okay, midterms. How many House seats will the Democrats pick up?
In the congressional midterms?
Yes.
Well, you want me to put a number on it. Let's say 45.
Yeah, okay. So that would give them control, right?
Yeah, and I think it was in Politico this weekend, read that Republicans in the House are starting to already assume that Democrats are going to take control, that it's not even something that they are really questioning anymore. So I don't know how accurate that reporting was, but very interesting given how far down the Democrats are that Republicans would feel that way.
Well, they're pretty worried about everything that's going on. However, we don't know what impact the economy is going to have. If it still continues to go forward, that could change some things. We'll see how it goes. Will the Republicans hold the U.S. Senate?
I don't think so, not at the moment. I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot of seats that Democrats have to defend this year, and they seem to be doing a pretty good job of defending them. And I don't think that the president can get out of his own way. I mean, this comment about shithole countries, John, I know you had into a debate about it on CNN, but my take on it is, your interpretation, whether it's correct or not, and I don't necessarily agree that it's correct, doesn't really matter. It's the language and it's the willingness to behave in that way. And I think that whether you agree or disagree with what the comment was, when a president makes comments like that, it's so divisive. It so hurts the people in the country that think he's talking to them, that he shouldn't have made the remarks. And it further divides people for the midterms, and I think that when you look at people in swing districts across the country, the president's taking them all down, and he may not understand why he's doing that, but it's not just the content; it's also the tenor, and a tone like that is just not going to ever appeal to swing voters in the middle of the country. And I think that some of the voters that put him over the top, I don't think he realizes how much he's alienated them with those kind of comments.
Okay, I've got only a minute remaining. Is casino gambling in Virginia ever going to see the light of day, or do we still have to go up to Maryland?
We're still going to have to go to Maryland for a while. I don't think this is going to be a priority of Governor Northam.
All right, that's going to be it. Final word, Ben Tribbett. You can follow Ben at Not Larry Sabato. That's at Not Larry Sabato. And you can follow him on Twitter. And someday he's going to get his blog back. Ben Tribbett, great to have you with us.